Welcome to all. We might have observed many children, especially in schools or at home or in the playground, how they are behaving. We know that development includes the holistic development, which means physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development. Moral development also is important in the holistic perspective. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about the psychosocial development of children and its implications for education. When we think of psychosocial development, what is coming in our mind is psychological and social development. So in this session, it is focusing upon to develop understanding about the psychosocial development of children and the different stages of Erik Erikson's theory, and to develop understanding about the implications of psychosocial development in the field of education. As stated earlier, we can see that the term psychosocial development consists of two terms, psychological and social. So what is important here is that it relates to psychological development and one's interaction with social environment. This psychosocial development, it is giving much emphasis for the theory put forward by Erik Erikson. And in his theory, it is stated that personality development is determined by the interactions of an internal maturational plan and external societal demands. So here we can see that the two things are important, that is maturational plan and societal demands. And in this case, we can see that Erik Erikson is much influenced by the theory of psychoanalytic, which was put forward by Sigmund Freud. What is the difference between these two theories? That Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory, it focuses upon the biological as well as the social aspects. Emphasis is more upon the social aspects, whereas in Freud's theory, he emphasized upon the biological and sexual urges. So his libido, energy, all these things are important. So when we look at both these theories, Erikson got inspired from Sigmund Freud. So here, Erikson believed that personality develops in a series of stages. His theory describes the impact of social experiences across the lifespan. So when we think of a lifespan of a person, there are different events that is happening in one's growth and development process. So Erikson has emphasizes the societal influences. Now a question may come to our mind, why Erikson's theory is known as psychosocial stages? So here he believed that the development of identity is the central issue of children and adolescents. So here there occurs a conflict which is rooted in the social experiences typical at that stage of development. So he divided the stages of development into 8 stages, and each stage there are some psychosocial crises. Whereas this crisis has an impact of the society, the societal influences we can see. So he stated that there are sequence of stages, and his theory is based upon the epigenetic principle. So what is the meaning of epigenetic principle? We will see that it consists of two terms, epi. Epic means the beyond the space. So here we can see the space-time influence upon Erikson's theory. Each psychosocial strength has its own special period of particular importance. As the stages extend across the whole lifespan, it takes a lifetime to acquire all of the psychosocial strength. So what is important here is that a person during the process of the 8 stages of development, he or she is influenced by the societal influences. If the person has encountered with a psychosocial crisis, and during that crisis, if the person is successfully able to handle or pass through the stage, a healthy or balanced development is possible. If it is vice versa, there is unbalanced development in the personality of that particular individual. Now, let us see the different stages of psychosocial development. Regarding the stages, as I stated earlier, there are 8 stages: trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus identity confusion. And next stage, intimacy versus isolation, generativity versus stagnation, and integrity versus despair. When each stage is happening, the trust versus mistrust is happening at the age birth to 1 year. The important challenge what the child is facing is developing a sense that the world is safe, that the child can trust the world, trust the members, trust the humanity. So this type of a sense of trust is developing among the child. If the child is able to attain that trust, then there will be a balanced growth of development. If the child doesn't develop only the mistrust, then there will be maladjustment in the development of that particular child. Coming to the second stage, that is autonomy versus shame, it happens between 1 year to 3 years. It develops more independence and self-control or a lack of confidence. So what is happening here these 1 to 3 years? Take the case of the child who is having a 3-year-old child. When the mother is or father trying to tie the shoe or putting the shoe on the foot, they will tell that, me do it, me do it. That will be the statement. What does it denote is that the child is trying to attain independence in his or her life. So that is an important thing that we can see. If the child attained that stage in a successful manner, that independency will remain, while there is any challenge or any fixed development in that, fear will be developing. Coming to the next stage, initiative versus guilt, it happens between 3 to 6 years and it exhibits exuberant activity or over control. So here we can see that the readiness to do certain activities and sometimes taking over control, that is the maladjustment state. Coming to the next stage, that is industry versus inferiority. We know that it happens between 6 years to adolescent stage. So here the most of the work, the learn basic skills or develop a sense of inadequacy. That is the positive development that the child is able to learn so many skills. If he fail, then there will be lack of this inadequacy. The sense of inadequacy is developing, that whatever thing I do, it may not be good or it may not achieve. So I cannot attain. So that type of feeling is developing. Coming to the next stage, identity versus identity confusion. We know that this is the most important stage, that is the adolescent stage, where lot of confusions, issues, as well as lot of strength are also there. It develops a sense of self and feels confusion through his or her role in society. So what is important here is the development of the self. The self-esteem and the self-concept is important, how the adolescent is developing. So this is an important stage. If that stage is not attained successfully, it feels confusion in the mind of the child. Next comes intimacy versus isolation, and it happens at the young adulthood, and it develops an ability to learn close relationships or avoid relationships. When interacting with the society, if the development is in a positive way or successfully developed, it develops good relationships. If the development is not successful, there we can see tries to avoid the relationships. Coming to the seventh stage, that is generativity versus stagnation, which happens in the middle adulthood, we can see that it guides the next generation or preoccupied with one's own needs. So the tendency that the time for getting married, all the things will happen at this middle adulthood stage. Coming to the last stage, that is integrity versus despair, that is the late life, where we can see that it view one's life as a satisfactory or not as worthwhile. It depends upon how the individual interact with the colleagues, with the fellow members, with the members in the society. If it is successful, there will be a life satisfaction at the old age. If it is not attained, they will confine to their own needs and not interacting much with the society. Let us have a detailed discussion on each stage, that is first trust versus mistrust. What is important here is that the child learn whether or not they can trust the people around them. And the child, if able to successfully develop trust, he will feel safe and secure in the world. And caregivers, the role of caregivers is very much important here. So the first initial stage, the child is able to develop the trust. And failure to develop trust can result in fear and a belief that the world is inconsistent and unpredictable. So this is the first stage. What type of psychological crisis is happening here is trust versus mistrust, and the relationship is with the immediate caregiver. That is, in most cases, it may be the mother, the parents, and the issues, that is feeding and being comforted and teething and sleeping. The basic virtue, it is hope and drive, and the maladaptation is the sensory maladjustment, and the malignancy, that is the withdrawal. If the stage or the feeding, the sleeping, everything is not done properly, so the result is withdrawal. Coming to stage 2, autonomy versus shame or doubt. As toddlers begin to explore the world, they learn they can control their actions and act on their environment to get results. So they show some kind of favorable things towards the food, toys and clothing. A toddler's main task is to resolve the issue of autonomy versus shame and doubt by working to establish independence. As stated earlier, this is the me do it stage, that I can do it, I will do it on my own, don't help me. So here the psychological crisis is the autonomy versus shame or doubt. And the relationship is with parents. The issues, that is the bodily functions, toilet training, muscular control and walking. The basic virtue here is willpower and self-control. The maladaptation is impulsivity and malignancy is compulsion. Coming to stage 3, that is initiative versus guilt. That this is the foundational stage. We can see they are capable of initiating activities and asserting control over their world. And their interaction with the world is happening through play with their friends. And according to Erikson, this foundational stage must resolve the task of initiative versus guilt. Initiative means a sense of ambition and responsibility occurs when parents allow a child to explore within limits and then support the child's choice. So in such cases, if they try to explore on their own and they succeeded and they get good parental support, self-confidence is increasing in the mind of the child. And if it is not succeeding, they will have some kind of guilty consciousness, the feelings of guilt. What is the main psychological crisis here? The initiative versus guilt, and the relationship is with the family, that is the societal influence. I told you that Erikson's theory has taken into consideration of the social forces. Here the social force is family. The issues are the exploration and discovery, adventure and play. The basic virtue is purpose and direction, and maladaptation ruthlessness, and malignancy is inhibition. Coming to stage 4, that is industry versus inferiority, which is happening at the primary stage, children face the task of industry versus inferiority. Children begin to compare themselves with their peers. Here the peer influence is becoming more. And if they are able to develop a sense of pride and accomplishment in their schoolwork, sports, social activities and family life, they feel very proud and pride, and they have a sense of accomplishment. So I can achieve, that type of feeling is happening. If they fail in that, they will have some kind of doubt in there. They feel that they are inadequate for doing the work. If children do not learn to get along with others or have negative experiences at home or with peers, the inferiority complex is developing in the mind of the child. So here we can see the main psychological crisis, that is industry versus inferiority. And the relationship is with the school, teachers, friends and neighborhood. And the issues achievement and accomplishment, the basic virtue, different kinds of competency is developing. Maladaptation, the narrow virtuosity, and malignancy is inertia. They come to a stagnant stage where they can't move forward. Coming to the next stage, that is identity versus role confusion, which happens generally at the adolescent stage. They are having the confusion that who am I? What is the purpose of my existence in this world? So what do I want to do with my life? So if they are able to find answer for these questions, they have developed a sense of self-identity. So if they are not able to achieve answers for these questions, their self-esteem and identity will be at a lower level. We can see such students, that adolescents especially, that have this type of psychological crisis, that is identity versus role confusion. They may have the doubt that, am I a child? No. Am I an adult? No. So this type of role confusion is happening in the minds of the adolescents. The relationship is between the school, teachers, friends and neighborhood. The issues resolving identity and direction, basic virtue, fidelity and devotion, maladaptation, fanaticism, and malignancy is repudiation. So here, this is the particular stage where lot of attention should be given to the adolescents to develop a positive self-identity or a positive self-esteem, self-concept. Then stage 6, intimacy versus isolation, which happens in the early adulthood. If other stages have not been successfully achieved, young adults may have trouble in developing and maintaining successful relationship with others. If any fixation, that the term Freud used. So here the lack of achievement of the other stages in a proper way leads to lack of relationship with others. Erikson stated that we must have a strong sense of self before we can develop successful intimate relationships. At first, we have to think that whether we are having a strong sense of self, then only we can make relationship with others. If it is lacking, we cannot make a strong relationship with others. What is the psychological crisis here? It is the intimacy versus isolation, the relationship, lovers, friends and work connections, issues, intimate relationship, work and social life, the basic virtue, love and affiliation, maladaptation is promiscuity and malignancy is exclusivity. So these type of things we have to handle. Then comes generativity versus stagnation. When people reach their 40s, they enter the time known as middle adulthood and it extends up to 60s, up to the senior citizen age. The social task of middle adulthood is generativity and stagnation. That contributing to the work environment and contributing to the development of others, such as volunteering, mentoring and raising children. This is happening at this stage. And those who doesn't have a positive development, they will live away from such type of activity. And the psychological crisis here is generativity versus stagnation. The relationship is with children and community. The issues is giving back in a positive development, helping and contributing. And the basic virtue is care and protection. The maladaptation is overextension and the malignancy is the rejection, keeping away from the social relationship. The stage 8, that is integrity versus despair, where it happens from the mid-60s to the end of life. So here Erikson's task at this stage is called integrity versus despair. He said that people in late adulthood reflect on their lives and feel either a sense of satisfaction or a sense of failure, and who feel proud that I have contributed a lot to the society. They will continue their connection with the society, and those who doesn't have a life satisfaction, they will limit the circle within the family members. So here the psychological crisis, the integrity versus despair, and the relationship is between the society and the world, the issues, meaning and purpose of life achievements. The basic virtue is wisdom and renunciation. The maladaptation is presumption and malignancy is disdaining from all the social activities. Now let us have a short description on the educational implication of Erikson's psychosocial theory on the development of the children. There, what is important is that to have a child a holistic development in the foundation stage, what we have to allow is to play with various natural and simple materials, and role playing can create a lot. The games, stories and songs can be used, and the real life activities like serving food, chopping vegetables, making chapatis, then prepare children for participation in the community around them can be made. And then potential support and encouragement from the family members is very much important. The child-directed activities where the child will choose his or her activity and repeat it often as they want must be encouraged. So, we have seen the different stages, the psychosocial stages of Erikson, why it is known as psychosocial stages, what are the different stages of this Erikson psychosocial theory, how it is different from Freud's psychoanalytic theory, and finally we discuss about the educational implications. Thank you.